If you're watching this, then maybe, just maybe, you're not like the rest. Maybe something inside you is tired of blending in, tired of walking with the crowd when your soul was built to climb alone. Because let me tell you something. If you want to become what the 99% will never be, you're gonna have to do what the 99% are too scared to even try. This isn't motivation, this is a call to war. A war against comfort, a war against distraction, a war against every excuse you've ever believed. If you've been praying for a sign, this is it. You're not watching this by accident. You've been marked, you've been chosen, and the next 40 minutes, they might just be the most important 40 minutes of your life. The 99% wait for permission. The 1% give themselves the green light. Microphone, some people are still sitting at the red light of life, waiting on a boss to notice them, waiting on a friend to believe in them, waiting on a parent to finally say, I'm proud of you, waiting on the world to hand them permission to become who they already are. But here's the raw truth, that light, it may never turn green. You could spend your whole life parked in the same place, engine running, dreams full, heart ready, but stuck. Why? Because the 99% believe they need someone else to unlock the door that's been open the whole time. They don't realize you don't need permission to be powerful. You don't need validation to be valuable. You don't need applause to become unforgettable. The world doesn't crown kings anymore. Kings crown themselves. Look around. How many people are still waiting to be ready, waiting to be perfect, waiting for the pain to go away before they move forward? But the 1%, they don't wait for the fear to leave. They move with the fear. They carry the doubt on their back like a cross and still take the next step. Because they understand something the rest don't. Backhand index pointing right, nobody is coming. Nobody's coming to knock on your door and tell you, today is your day. Nobody's coming to rescue you from your comfort zone. Nobody's coming to tell you that you're enough. That job belongs to you. The 99% are watching. The 1% are walking. And here's the part that hurts. Sometimes we've been trained so long to wait. We don't even recognize when the door is open. You're waiting on the perfect time, but the perfect time is a myth. You're waiting on clarity, but clarity only comes from courage. You're waiting on support, but the people you're waiting on might never understand your calling because it wasn't given to them, it was given to you. Microphone, the 99% were raised to ask for permission, but the 1% learn that sometimes you've got to break the rules to follow your purpose. You're not here to blend in. You're not here to wait your turn. You're here to wake the world up with the weight of your voice, the fire of your calling, the beauty of your brokenness. Some people are still standing at the gate, but the 1%, they built the gate. You don't need a degree to start. You don't need millions of followers. You don't need a green light from the crowd. You need a mirror and the courage to look yourself in the eyes and say, I am the permission I've been waiting for. Think about the greats. Did Oprah wait for someone to hand her a talk show? Did Steve Jobs ask if it was okay to change the world? Did Denzel ask for permission to act like a giant in a room full of shadows? No. They gave themselves the green light. They lit their own path. They walked into rooms they weren't invited to and became the reason those rooms changed forever. The 99% are waiting for an opportunity. The 1% create it. They knock until the door opens. Then when it doesn't open, they build their own house and turn it into a home for a million others who thought they didn't belong either. Microphone, you can live your whole life waiting on the world. You can rise today and tell the world it's your turn now. So the question is simple. Will you keep waiting, or will you wake up today and say, vertical traffic light, no more red lights. I'm not waiting for permission. I'm giving it to myself. And I'm going. The 99% chase comfort. The 1% chase calling. Microphone of comfort is a killer dressed like a friend. It whispers soft lies to your soul. Tells you just stay here. It's warm, it's easy, it's safe. But here's the truth, and it might break you before it builds you. Nothing great was ever born in comfort, and nobody who changed the world ever did it from a couch. The 99%, they love comfort. They build their lives around it. They choose jobs they hate just because they feel safe. They stay in relationships that drain their spirit because they're afraid to be alone. They silence their dreams just to avoid rejection, and they call it peace. But it's not peace, it's a prison. And the worst part, it's a prison with pillows. You don't realize you're dying inside because everything looks good on the outside. The 1%, though, they're different. They don't chase comfort, they chase their calling. They understand that purpose is supposed to stretch you, that growth doesn't feel good at first, that the path to greatness isn't lit with ease but with sacrifice. They know that the price of impact is pain. Microphone comfort says play it safe. Calling says risk everything. Comfort says don't stand out. Calling says let them stare. Comfort says you're not ready. Calling says go anyway. The 99% wait for the pain to stop before they start. The 1% walk through the fire because they know the fire isn't meant to burn them, it's meant to brand them. You will never find your higher self in a place that doesn't challenge your lower one. The 1% wake up tired, they wake up uncertain, they wake up afraid, but they still wake up on purpose because there is a voice louder than their fear, a whisper they can't ignore, a weight on their chest that says you were made for more. The 99% think comfort equals success, but that's why they scroll for hours. That's why they numb their minds with noise. That's why they binge on distractions and call it a relaxing, because they've confused feeling good with being good. But the 1%, they don't run from the pain. They use it, they let it mold them. They let it break them open so something greater can come out. They've learned that what's easy in the moment becomes hard in life. But what's hard in the moment, that becomes legacy. Let me ask you something. What have you walked away from just because it got uncomfortable? What dream did you let die because it demanded a version of you weren't ready to become? How many nights did your calling try to wake you up, but you hit snooze because comfort had its arms wrapped around you? That's how the 99% live, safe, silent, sinking, but not the 1%. The 1% wake up and say, this is going to hurt, but I'm doing it anyway. This is going to stretch me, but I'm ready now. This is uncomfortable, but that's where my destiny lives. Microphone, the 99% build lives that look good to others. The 1% build lives that feel right to God. The world doesn't need another comfortable person. It needs someone who's dangerous to mediocrity, someone who walks into a room and shifts the air, not because they're perfect, but because they carry fire that comfort couldn't kill. You weren't built for easy. You weren't born for average. You weren't created to be comfortable. You were made for something so much bigger, and yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will stretch you. Yes, it will scare the hell out of you, but it will also set you free. So now the question is this: are you going to spend the rest of your life decorating your comfort zone, or are you ready to destroy it so you can finally walk in your calling? The 99% chase ease. The 1% chase eternity. Which one are you? The 99% complain. The 1% create. Microphone, complaining is easy. It takes zero effort, zero risk, zero courage. That's why the 99% do. They wake up mad at the alarm clock, mad at the traffic, mad at the weather, mad at the world. They point at everything, except the one thing that can change: themselves. It's a cycle. Blame, excuse, repeat. And before they know it, a lifetime has passed. A lifetime of pointing fingers. A lifetime of why me, a lifetime of sitting in the audience while someone else lives the life they wanted. But the 1%, they don't have time to complain. They're too busy building. While the 99% are shouting about what's wrong, the 1% are doing something right. See, complain is the language of the powerless, but creation is the language of the chosen. The 99% think words are enough, but the 1%, they know the truth. Backhand index pointing right results speak louder than resentment. You'll never meet a creator who complains about what they can't control, because they're too focused on what they can. Microphone of the 99% use their mouths to tear things down. The 1% use their hands to build things up. Look around. Every great thing you admire, someone built. Someone paid for it in sacrifice. Someone woke up when they didn't feel like it. Someone kept going after every door slammed shut. And while others whined about how hard it was, they kept building. They didn't have time to gossip. They didn't have energy for bitterness. They had vision. And when you have vision, you don't complain, you create. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you used your pain to create something powerful? When was the last time you turned your frustration into fuel? When was the last time you looked at your life and said, I don't like this, so I'm gonna build something better? The 99% cry about the system, the 1% learn how to master it. The 99% talk about unfairness, the 1% turn pain into platforms. The 99% say, oh, why is this happening to me? The 1% say it's happening for me. Now watch what I do with it. Microphone, you can't complain and create at the same time. You've got to choose one. Your energy is a currency. And if you spend it all whining, you'll never have enough to build something that matters. Every second you complain is a second stolen from your dream. But the 1%, they spend their energy like it's gold. They put it into action, into progress, into the next step. They don't just talk about how broken the world is. They create what the world's been waiting for. They write, they speak, they build, they lead, they heal, they move. Some people wake up every day looking for something to be angry about. But the 1%, they wake up looking for something to improve because they understand this backhand index pointing right. If you're not building, you're breaking, you're decaying, you're decaying. If you're not using your voice to lift, then you're using it to limit. And the sad truth, some people become professional complainers. They've mastered it. It becomes their identity. But let me remind you, your voice was not made for whining. Your voice was made to build worlds. So what will you choose? To echo complaints, or to create change, to live in bitterness, or to birth something beautiful out of your pain? The 99% look for someone to blame. The 1% look in the mirror and say, I'm going to make something out of this, no matter what it costs me. Microphone, you can cry about the fire, or you can learn to forge your future in it. So here's the challenge. Create the life you want. Create the version of you that scares your fears. Create something so powerful, the world has no choice but to stop complaining and start paying attention. Be the reason someone else stops complaining and starts building. The 99% fear failure. The 1% use it as fuel. Microphone of failure. That word, it terrifies most people. They run from it like it's a monster, like it's the end. But what if I told you failure is not the enemy? What if I told you failure is the door to everything you've ever wanted? But the 99% never make it through because they're too scared to knock. See the 99%, they see failure as proof they weren't good enough, proof they shouldn't have tried, proof they should shrink again. They fall down and they stay there. They let one mistake erase their identity. One a no becomes a lifetime of silence. One door closes and they never knock again. Because they were taught that failure is shameful. But let me tell you something that will change your life. Backhand index pointing right. The 1% were raised by failure. They were built in the dark. And they learned to turn rejection into rocket fuel. Microphone of failure is not a tombstone, it's a turning point. Every time the 1% failed, they got stronger. Every time they were laughed at, they got quieter and more dangerous. Every time the 99% said, see, you're not cut out for this, they whispered back, watch me. Because the 1% understand that every fall is part of the climb. And if you're afraid to fall, you'll never fly. Ask any giant, ask any leader, ask any legend, and they'll tell you they failed more times than most people have even tried. But here's the difference. The 99% fall and question their worth. The 1% fall and remember their why. They don't run from the pain, they extract power from it. They don't hide from the lessons, they highlight them. They don't fear the embarrassment because their purpose is bigger than their pride. Let me be real with you for a second. If failure still scares you, it means you've tied your identity to your performance. But hear this loud and clear, you are not your mistakes, you are what you do after them. The 99% let failure define their story. The 1% let failure refine their story. One group gives up, the other gets up. One group says, this is the end. The other says, this is where I begin again, stronger. Microphone, you can fear failure or you can feed from it, but you can't do both. The 99% wait until they're sure it'll work. The 1% jump, even when they know they might crash, because they'd rather fail trying than live their whole life wondering what if. And let me say this to the broken ones, the ones who've tried and fallen hard, the ones with bruised egos and shattered hearts. You are not weak. You're a warrior in the making, and every scar you carry, It's proof you didn't quit. The 1% walk with wounds. They don't pretend they've got it all together. They just decided that their failures wouldn't break them, they'd build them. The 99% see failure as a wall. The 1% see it as a window. And every time it cracks, light comes in. You want to rise, then fall, and get back up again and again. And again, because your future is not reserved for the fearless. It's reserved for the resilient. Microphone of the road to greatness is littered with failure. But the 1% keep walking because they know what's on the other side. You want to do what the 99% won't. Then be willing to fall harder than they ever dared and rise faster than they ever imagined. Let failure feed you. Let it light your fire. Let it baptize you in humility and resurrect you with purpose. So the next time you fall, don't curse it, thank it. Because you are being sharpened for something bigger. And the only way to get there is to go through what they fear. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be relentless. Let the 99% fear failure, but not you. You were born to rise through it. The 99% watch others. The 1% work in silence. Microphone, there's a dangerous addiction spreading through the world. It's not drugs, not alcohol, not greed. It's this. The addiction to watching other people live while you forget to live your own. The 99% are spectators. They scroll endlessly through highlight reels. They study other people's wins. They compare their day 1 to someone else's year 10. They watch the grind, but they don't join it. Their energy goes into observation, not transformation. They cheer for others, but they never chase their own greatness. Meanwhile, the 1%, they disappear, not because they're hiding, but because they're working. You won't see them posting every hour. You won't see them explaining themselves. You won't see them needing approval. They're in the shadows becoming something no one expects. Microphone, the 99% want recognition before they've earned results. The 1% earn results and don't care about recognition. The world is loud. Everybody's talking. Everybody's performing. Everybody's trying to look successful. But the 1%, they let their silence speak. They understand this truth. Backhand index pointing right, the strongest warriors don't shout when they enter the battlefield. They wait until the war is won. While the 99% are watching videos, the 1% are making them. While the 99% are admiring bodies, the 1% are building theirs in quiet gyms. While the 99% are watching millionaires, the 1% are reading, learning, failing, building behind closed doors. Because they know the work you do in silence will echo louder than 1,000 voices. Let me be honest with you, you will not grow if you're always online. You will not rise if you keep comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's final cut. You will not create legacy if you're obsessed with attention. The spotlight feels good, but it doesn't make you better. The 99% need noise to feel alive. The 1%, they become dangerous in the quiet. They fast from approval. They isolate with intention. They go dark so they can rise with light. Microphone, everyone wants to be seen, but the real ones, they want to be changed. This is where the 99% lose. They confuse visibility with value. They confuse attention with achievement. They confuse popularity with purpose. But the 1%, they don't want to be famous. They want to be effective. They understand the law of growth. Seedling of what grows in secret becomes unstoppable in public. Think about it. You don't hear the roots growing under the ground, but they're working. You don't hear the lion when he's stalking in the grass, but he's working. You don't hear the storm before it breaks the sky open, but it's building power. So stop looking around. Stop watching every move they make. Stop measuring your life by their timeline. Turn off the noise. Tune into your assignment and get to work. The 99% ask, did they see me? The 1% ask, who did I show up for myself today when no one was watching? Because they know that's where character is born. That's where habits are forged. That's where real greatness is made. Microphone of fame is a spotlight. But purpose is a fire that lights you up from the inside, and fire doesn't need followers to burn. So the challenge is this. Can you stay hidden long enough to become unstoppable? Can you go unseen long enough to outgrow their opinions? Can you stay silent long enough for your work to speak louder than your words? The 99% are busy watching, but you were born to build. Don't be addicted to watching their breakthrough. Get obsessed with building your own. The 99% want motivation. The 1% build discipline. Microphone of motivation is beautiful, but it's unreliable. It shows up when it wants to, comes and goes like a breeze. But you weren't built for breezes, you were built for storms. And storms don't care if you feel like it. The 99% live for motivation. They chase it like a drug. Scroll after scroll, video after video, quote after quote, waiting for a spark, a push, a feeling. But what happens when the feeling fades? They quit, they fall back, they shrink again because they were never rooted, only emotionally hyped, temporarily. But the 1%, they know something deeper. Backhand index pointing right, motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you going when it's raining, when they're tired, when no one is clapping, when the world is silent, and their soul is screaming, they give up, they still move. A microphone of the 99% ask, how do I feel today? The 1% ask, what needs to be done today? No matter how I feel, feelings are liars. They're fragile, they shift with the weather. But purpose doesn't change. The 1% don't wait for inspiration. They wake up and create it. They lace up their shoes. They open the laptop. They study when it's boring. They train when it hurts. They show up when it's hard. Because discipline is not about feelings. It's about freedom. The 99% think discipline is punishment. They think it's restriction. They think it's cold, robotic, lifeless. But that's because they've never tasted the freedom that comes from it. Discipline is what lets you say a no to the world so you can say yes to your calling. Discipline is what lets you rise above your moods and build momentum that fear can't break. Discipline is what separates the dreamers from the doers, the loud from the legendary. Let's be real. Motivation didn't build empires. Discipline did. Motivation didn't write books, build legacies, run marathons, or raise warriors. Discipline did. And the most dangerous thing about the 1%, it's not their talent. It's not their money. It's not even their intelligence. It's that they do what needs to be done, especially when they don't feel like it. Microphone, anyone can move when it's easy. But can you move when it's heavy? That's the mark of a real one. Can you stay consistent when life is inconsistent? Can you be faithful to the vision when everything around you is falling apart? Can you do the reps when your mind is screaming a skip it just this once? The 99% look for the mood. The 1% build the muscle. And you want to know the crazy part? Discipline isn't born overnight. It's built one small yes at a time. Yes to early mornings. Yes to painful workouts. Yes to showing up when no one sees. Yes to being misunderstood. Yes to doing it when it's boring. Yes to honoring your word, even when no one's watching. That's the grind. That's the fire. That's where kings are made. So if you're tired of starting and stopping, if you're tired of quitting when it gets hard, if you're tired of living at the mercy of your emotions, then today, right now, kill the addiction to motivation and build the habit of discipline. The world doesn't need more hype. It needs more consistency. The 99% get motivated for a day. The 1% get disciplined for a lifetime. Microphone of motivation feels good. Discipline builds greatness. So you've got two voices now. One says, await until you feel like it. The other says, do it anyway. Choose the second one. That's the voice of your future. That's the voice of the 1%. That's the voice that changes everything. The 99% blame. The 1% own everything. Microphone, there's one thing that keeps more people broken, and bitter than anything else. Blame. It's poison dressed as protection. It tells you it's not your fault. And maybe it isn't, but here's the problem. If it's never your fault, then it's never your fight. The 99% blame the world, blame their childhood, blame their boss, blame their ex, blame the system, blame the economy, blame God. Because blaming is easier than building. Blaming feels good in the moment. It gives you a target, someone to point to, someone to resent. But here's the raw truth. Blame might make you feel better, but it will never make you better. Microphone and 99% point fingers. The 1% pick up the pieces. Because the 1% know this. Life may not be your fault, but it's still your responsibility. They've been hurt too. They've been abandoned too. They've been knocked down, counted out, and overlooked. But they made a choice. Backhand index pointing right. No one is coming. No one owes me. This is my life. And I'm going to own every inch of it. While the 99% are arguing about whose fault it is, the 1% are fixing it. They're rewriting the story, they're healing themselves, they're building through the ruins. Because they know every time you give away blame, you also give away power. And the 1%, they refuse to be powerless. They don't say, I can't because of them. They say, I will in spite of them. They don't say, it's too hard because of my past. They say, it's harder because of my past. But that just means I'm going to be stronger than most. They don't say I wasn't given the opportunity. They say I'll create one. Microphone of the 99% avoid the mirror. The 1% break it if they have to, just to face themselves. Because self-responsibility is not self-blame. It's self-power. It's standing up and saying, maybe they hurt me, but I won't let that pain define me. Or maybe life was unfair, but I'm still breathing, so I'm not done. That's the fire of the 1%. They don't run from the mess. They walk into it and make something beautiful out of it. Let me ask you, what have you been blaming that you could be building? What excuse have you told yourself so many times that it became your identity? Is it fear? Is it failure? Is it, they did me wrong? Who have you made your enemy just so you don't have to face your own reflection? Because that's what blame does. It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you small. The 1% made a decision, a violent, holy decision. No more blaming, no more giving my story to people who didn't write it. They own the brokenness. They own the healing. They own the grind. They own the growth, not because it's fair, but because it's necessary. Microphone of the world doesn't need more victims. It needs more victors. And every victor had a reason to blame someone else, but they didn't. They owned their trauma. They own their healing. They own their habits, and they own their greatness. Because the minute you own it, you unlock it. So here's the question. Are you going to keep telling the same old story, or are you going to own the pen and write a new ending? The 99% look for someone to rescue. The 1% become their own rescue. No more blaming, no more waiting, no more excuses. This is your life, your war, your rise. Own it all. The 99% want fast results. The 1% build for legacy. Microphone of the world is in a rush. Everyone wants it now. They want the money now, the body now, the success now. But anything built overnight usually falls by morning because speed doesn't equal strength. And the 99% don't know the difference. They want quick wins. They want viral fame. They want the gold without digging the mine. They chase after moments but never build movements. They fall in love with outcomes but never commit to process. And that's why their success is loud but short-lived. Because fast isn't faithful. Fast isn't last. But the 1%, they're not chasing fast. They're building forever. They understand that slow doesn't mean stuck. It means sacred. It means deliberate. It means legacy is being carved in silence. Microphone of the 99% want to be seen. The 1% want to be remembered. That's a different kind of hunger. The kind that keeps you working when no one's clapping. The kind that keeps you serving when no one's watching. The kind that says, I'm not building for likes, I'm building for lives. You want to know why legacy takes time? Because it requires you to become someone that success can't destroy. Backhand index pointing right, it requires depth. Backhand index pointing right, it requires roots. Backhand index pointing right, it requires pain, and pain takes time. The 99% can't sit through the pain. They escape it, avoid it, ignore it. But the 1%, they endure it. Because they know what they're birthing is bigger than what they're feeling. The 99% look for harvest. The 1% stay loyal to planting season. They wake up every day and water seeds the world forgot about. They build when no one notices. They prepare for doors that haven't even been built yet. They know that fast fame is fragile. But legacy is unshakable. Microphone of the 99% look for fruit. The 1% build orchards. So ask yourself, are you working for applause or impact? Are you sprinting toward a finish line or training for a marathon? Because legacy isn't about being loud, it's about being lasting. It's about becoming a voice that echoes even after you're gone. It's about living in such a way that the next generation doesn't have to start from zero because you paid the price they didn't have to. The 1% understand legacy is slow, and slow is sacred. They embrace the grind. The stretch, the silence, the seasons of being overlooked. They don't need a spotlight, they need a mission. And that mission becomes their oxygen. Microphone of the 99% chase comfort, the 1% chase contribution. They're not asking how fast can I win? They're asking what will last when I'm gone. They build businesses with integrity. They raise children with courage. They serve people with honor. They speak truth even when it costs them. Because their name means something. Their word means something. Their legacy means everything. So here's what I need you to hear. If it's taking longer than you expected, good. It means you're not building a moment, you're building a monument. And monuments aren't rushed, they're carved, they're tested, they're weathered. And when they rise, they stand for generations. Microphone, the 99% want speed, the 1% want significance, so slow down. Do it right. Build something that can't be erased when trends change. Build something that doesn't need the spotlight to shine. Build something that will whisper your name long after you're gone. Fast success dies quick, but legacy lives forever. The 99% fit in, the 1% stand out. Microphone, since you were a child, they told you, be normal, blend in, don't make noise, don't stand out. And so slowly you dimmed your light, you silenced your voice, you dressed like them, walked like them, talked like them. And somewhere along the way, you forgot who you were. The 99% are prisoners of approval. They'd rather be accepted than authentic. They'd rather be liked than legendary. They trade their voice for validation. They shrink their calling to fit someone else's comfort zone. And they don't even realize they're dying a slow, invisible death. Because every time you pretend to be less, a piece of your soul goes silent. But the 1%, they never came to fit in. They didn't come to follow. They didn't come to be liked. They came to be light. They stand up. They stand out. They stand alone if they have to. Because they know something the 99% have forgotten. Backhand index pointing right, you were never meant to fit in. You were born to break patterns. To break silence, to break chains. Microphone of the 99% copy trends, the 1% set them. They don't need matching energy. They bring new energy, they don't ask for permission. They walk in with presence because they know fitting in is for people who haven't met their purpose yet. Let's be honest, standing out is lonely. It's painful. You'll be misunderstood, mocked, left out, laughed at. But that's the cost of becoming rare. That's the price of walking the narrow road. The 99% want comfort. The 1% want clarity, even if it means walking alone with vision while the world stumbles in crowds. Microphone and normal never changed the world. Ordinary never shook nations. You want to know why you've always felt different? It's because you are. Your silence doesn't fit. Your fire doesn't fit. Your soul doesn't fit into average-sized dreams. You were never meant to match them. You were meant to magnify him. And that kind of purpose, it will always make you look at too much to people who settled for too little. The 99% ask, what will they think of me? The 1% ask, what will happen if I don't become everything I was born to be? Because they know fitting in never changed anything. But standing out, that changes everything. Let me ask you something. Are you dimming your light so others don't feel insecure? Are you hiding your gifts because people aren't clapping? Are you bending your truth to fit the lie of approval? Because that's what the 99% do. They erase themselves just to avoid rejection. But the 1%, they embrace rejection as confirmation. I'm not like them because I'm not meant to be. Microphone of the 99% crave belonging. The 1% create their own table. They don't wait for an invite. They build rooms for people just like them. The misfits, the fire breathers, the soul awakeners. They understand out long enough, eventually they'll follow. Not because you tried to be like them, but because you stayed true to who you are. So here's your call today. Stop shrinking. Stop silencing. Stop apologizing for your fire. The 99% fit in, but you were made to disrupt. You were made to break ground. You were made to set the world on fire with the sound of your voice. You weren't born to blend, you were born to blaze. Microphone of the 99% become echoes. The 1% become voices. And you, my friend, are not an echo. You are a voice. Unforgettable, unapologetic, unmatched. Let the world adjust to you, not the other way around. The 99% quit, the 1% finish the fight. Microphone, everybody wants to start strong. Everybody loves the hype in the beginning, the applause, the dreams, the vision board, but somewhere along the way, life hits back. And in that moment, most people quit, but not the 1%. No, the 1%, they finish the fight. The 99% fold when it gets heavy. They break when the pressure comes. They let want to know shut the whole dream down. They confuse delays with denial and process with punishment. So they quit, sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically. But they walk away from what they once begged God for. But the 1%, they're different. They stand, they finish. Because they know that greatness doesn't live in the beginning. It's buried in the middle, in the stretch, in the struggle, in the silence. That's where legends are forged. Not in the comfort, but in the chaos. Microphone of the 99% quit because it's hard. The 1% endure because it's holy. They see the pain and still move forward. They hear the doubts and still move forward. They feel the fear, but they don't let it sit in the driver's seat. They've learned the secret of the 1%. Backhand index pointing right. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And if it means crawling, bleeding, limping, they'll still cross that line. The 99% need conditions to be perfect. The 1% use whatever's in their hands. If they've got a sword, they swing. If they've got their fists, they fight. If they've got nothing but faith, they still show up. Because quitting is not in their blood, and mediocrity is not in their vocabulary. Microphone of the 99% walk away when it hurts. The 1% rise even when it breaks them. They rise with tears in their eyes. They rise with scars on their back. They rise when it looks like there's nothing left to give. Because they know the enemy never attacks what isn't dangerous. So if life is hitting you hard, it's because there's greatness inside you that scares hell itself. Let me ask you, what dream did you leave behind when it got hard? What calling did you silence because it cost too much? What fire did you let burn out because no one else believed in it? That's what the 99% do. But you're not one of them. You've got something in you that refuses to die. Something in you that still believes, still hopes, still fights. That's the 1%. They don't wait for the storm to pass. They become the storm. They take every no and grind it into a watch me. They take every closed door and kick down the next one. They take every failure and build firewood for their next rise. Because finishing is not about feeling strong. It's about being faithful when everything feels weak. Microphone of the 99% let the pain define them. The 1% let it refine them. They don't run from the war, they lean into it. They stay in the ring. They wipe the blood from their face and say, if I'm still breathing, I'm still swinging, because they don't just want the win, they want the warrior it will turn them into. So here's the call. Don't stop here. Don't bow out now. Don't give up when you're this close. You've come too far. You've cried too many nights. You've fought through too many demons. You've survived what would have buried most. So finish the fight. Finish the race, finish becoming the one thing the world has never seen before. You, fully awake, fully unstoppable. Oh, the 99% quit when it hurts. The 1% finish when it's done. Now, which one are you? Microphone. So now you've heard it. The 10 things the 99% will never do. And if you've listened this far, I need you to understand something deep, something eternal. You were never meant to live like the 99%. That's why it's always felt uncomfortable. That's why your soul never settled. That's why average never satisfied you, because you were built for the climb. You were born for the war. You were called for more. You've been walking through life like you're just another number. But let me tell you something. You are the interruption to everything average around you. You are the one your family's been waiting for. You are the one the future depends on. You are the one hell hoped would stay silent. But now you're awake. And now that you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Microphone of the 99%, they will go back to scrolling, back to sleeping, back to complaining. But you're going to rise. You're going to become a new kind of dangerous, the kind that doesn't just chase success, but carries significance in every step. You won't fit in anymore because you were never meant to. You won't shrink again because you've seen what happens when you expand. You won't beg for permission because your purpose already gave you the green light. From this day forward, you are not watching from the sidelines. You are not waiting for motivation. You are not wishing for breakthrough. You are the storm. You are the fire. You are the 1%. And now the world is going to feel it. Microphone will let the 99% keep talking. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. Because while they're sleeping, you'll be rising. While they're watching, you'll be building. And while they're quitting, you'll be finishing the fight they never had the heart to start. So go build when it's hard. Speak when it's risky. Move when it's scary. Rise when it's lonely. Stand when it's easier to sit. Because you've tasted too much truth now, you've seen too much light, and something inside you, something ancient, something divine, something dangerous has been reignited. Microphone, you are not like them. You never were, you never will be. You're part of the 1%. Now walk like it, fight like it, pray like it, serve like it, build like it, and never ever shrink again.